tune my Chromebook over here to the chat so I can see that better. And while I do that, I'll pan you down to see the razors. Been working at this for a little while now, and it's a labor of love. Now that's hilarious. The I think the I uploaded a thumbnail, but the thumbnail didn't work, and so the thumbnail is actually supposed to be the big shot here of the razors, but it's actually my face. That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. I'm getting to the chats. Unfortunately, to try to get a better experience, focus for you guys, I'm turning the camera around and I can't quite see the screen, and so I'm not able to see the chats unless I look at my Chromebook. GD, hey, welcome, man. I'm glad you're able to join. Zesty, hey, man. Samaj, hey, hey. Refined Edge is here too. Very nice. Yeah, that thumbnail. Whew, that thumbnail was a surprise. It was supposed to be a big picture of the background here. Hey, Gerard. Oh, James. Holy cow. Hey, man. Welcome. So, James, I've got your little section right up here. The lovely Wolfman section up there, and awesome. Oh yeah, hey Gerard. Okay, roger that. I recognize your username now. Great. Now, I didn't even count the razors. We're probably looking at about 90 razors here, and I have another toward the end. We'll also look at the bonus palette here of some single edges and things like that. But one of the things I want to cover, the purposes of this video, is to just kind of have a cursory look at some of the razors here. Some of you guys who watch, you might enjoy seeing what I have. Also, for new people to the shaving industry, to our little hobby here, they might not know what's available. They might only be restricted to some of the D89 type razors that you see out there. And another goal was to answer any questions. If you have a razor question, what better way is to do it when you have a big selection of razors at your fingertips, to just show as examples and that sort of things. And then write down any questions you might have. Maybe if you put them in the chat right now, I think I'll probably lose them, and maybe we'll do them more toward the end after a kind of cursory look. I do have about 8 razors that I really enjoy that I wasn't able to find in time, but it's one of those things where if I waited for it to be perfect, then the day may never come, right? So the Fine Marvel is one that I really enjoy. It's a zinc, alloy type razor, but for some reason it just shaves me really well. It's neat. I've got another new deluxe. Here is the 17 millimeter new deluxe, and I've got a 15 millimeter that's not around right now. I've got a new improved big fellow. I don't think I have any new short combs. I've got some new long combs here. I've got to try to get that in the right part of the frame. I've got a super speeds. The vintage are all kind of on these bottom 2 rows right here, and I wanted to try to represent a lot of the super speeds. And we got the red tip, blue, standard, that sort of thing. But my black handle and my black tip super speeds were or somewhere else. I've got a contract tech that's neat, a TV special, which is virtually the same as this kind of normal super speed, but it is um, slightly different in the handle. There's a special effort they did. Um, and there we go. So those are the ones that you won't see today. I do plan on doing a more exhaustive video later. I don't know how everybody's gonna. Michael, yes. Look at all the money I saved. You know, speaking of that, this is the premium razors are here up in the top middle. The Wolfman are up here with a carbon shaving right here, and then this section right here to almost to the very end are premiums, and there are only 6 here that I bought retail, that I bought from the actual vendor itself. And so, in a way, yeah, I did save money. But also, I think of this as this is my one hobby. I don't have a boat. I don't have an expensive vehicle or any of that stuff. I have one hobby, and this is a cool hobby that I get to use every single day. I get to pick and enjoy the shaves every day instead of a guy who has an RV parked in his backyard that's got poison ivy on it because he hasn't used it in 6 months. Um, and so that's kind of the way I look at it. And a lot of these I got at great deals, and I'm happy about that. Um, the Wolfman actually, the 2 of the ones that I told you that were 6 that I bought new, I bought. This was back when with the Gorilla. I bought it from James, and directly when it came out under the advice from Tiglath-Pileser, and he said this is a great buy because at the time it was a long wait for Wolfman, and I bought it, and it was I'm really glad I did. I'm really glad I jumped on that, and interesting story behind that one. And then this is the one when he did open up the waiting list. This, and you don't see too many brushed Wolfman razors out there, and so I went ahead. I'm really glad I chose that option. I really enjoy this WR2. I think the WR2 is just one of the most beautiful razors out there in terms of the head design and all that stuff. HD is here. Welcome, sir. Man, glad. Thank you for showing up. HD has some razors here that he sent me. He sent me a cool Featherlight single edge, and he also gave me the advice about the gem contour here that it was so mild that it's kind of a dud, So when it didn't shave me very well, he was there to give me good advice about that. Okay, so let's take a look. And I'll say, first of all, I come from a perspective of smoothness. I like smooth shaves. I don't like highly aggressive shaves. And so that's why I like the Wolfman I have up here. They're among the lowest gaps out there. And that's my goal. And that's why I'm a big fan of the Gorilla, because it's a nice mild shaver. I love to put a feather or some other really sharp blade in there, and a lot of mild razors. And I love the shave that I get from that. Yeah, this is a Sunday. Oh, speaking of COVID, yeah, I thought I had COVID. I had all the symptoms. I had just spent time with my kids this weekend. They turn out to have COVID, but I take a test the same day they got tested, and I got negative. But I'm having flu symptoms anyway, and so I don't know if it's a false negative or whatever. I'm feeling a lot better, but so we'll see. I'll get tested again later. But good news is at least the first test came back negative. All right. Um, there were some things that I wrote down. I want to make sure I covered. All right. So what we have is the vintage down here and the vintage here, and we got a row of premium here. We've got some kind of the Mercure Futurs over here that are kind of Zamac type razors. We've got some Zamac over here in this corner. In terms of like the Rockwell 6C, the Maggard razor. They got a little section of Fatoops. We got some Wolfman, Carbon, and this is a vintage. This is the Hybrid Tech from, vintage Gillette, of course. I did put a different handle on it. It originally came with a thin Tech handle, something along the lines of this little guy right here. All right, so yeah, I don't work on a Sunday, so my boss isn't gonna isn't gonna have too much bad to say about this. Um, Now, let's take a little poll. What do you guys want me to start walking through them? Let's while you guys kind of express your opinion in the comments. Let's just go through a little cursory quick tour. In the in the beginning, a long time ago, Gillette came out with razors, and the single ring, like this one, was among some of the first of these kind of double-edged razors. And these are pretty cheap to be had. The double ring is super expensive. It has two little guys right here, but it shaves really nicely. A beginner might think of it as too aggressive, but once your technique improves, this will likely be a decent shaver for you. Old type is another one that is very cheap. These are a dime a dozen, and so if you're looking to get into vintage razors, it's easy to pick these guys up. And this was another one that was tough for me to use at first when I was new. It doesn't flex the blade very much, and so when I was new, it felt very scrapey. But when my technique improved, it became a much more friendly and enjoyable razor. And and then oh, and here I'll show you this. If you can see it, there's a crack going down the handle here. It's very common for a lot of these old Gillettes that have these tubes here to have cracks like that. Some of them are pretty stable, and so you don't have too much to worry about. Just don't over tighten them, right? And then now I don't know the super chronological history, but the news came out, um, and so that's kind of what we're dealing with here. This is a new deluxe, and something you can easy pick that out. You see the flat base here, and then this has got that kind of criterion looking handle, and this has 17 millimeters between the gap in the teeth on each side. There's another one that has a head that looks just like this, that has a 15 millimeters gap, and I find the 17 to be a lot smoother. This is one of those surprise razors that it's kind of easy to identify online once you know to look for that flatness, but it surprised me with how amazingly smooth it was. It really beat the pants off of this guy right here. This is a new improved model, and I find him kind of a little bit on the aggressive side. Again, that beautiful criterion handle, but the deluxe beats the pants off of him in terms of smoothness. A razor that required a technique change. We got another new deluxe fan out there. He knows good quality when he sees it. I think it was just time and pressure. Um, the ability to move the razor on your face and keep it at the right place. It it just changed over time without me having to think about it too much. Hey Keith, welcome Keto. And so we had now some of the another dime a dozen razor that's out there are these guys right here. These are new long combs. My short comb is missing, and the only difference really is the distance these combs come down. And you've got the two examples of the two handles that you'll often see, the ball end and the common bar handle. And some people say they can tell the difference between the short comb and the long comb, the way it shaves and stuff. But some people will say one's smoother than the other, and then another person will say the other one is smoother. So, but they're pretty cheap, and that's another one that got better for me as my technique and time passed. Notice right here we'll see the difference in some of the news. Um, and the news you can look at from the side. This is the new improved. And see, it's missing the little center groove right there, the channel right there. And so that's how you can tell it's a new improved instead of a new. And all these guys are the new, and they all have that little center channel right there. Now this guy here, we'll flip him over. The silver guy in my right hand, he's got the raised flat bottom. He doesn't have the standard speed bump style. And this is the raised flat bottom, and it's a little bit on the mid-range for me. It's not super smooth, kind of in the mid-range area. It's a beautiful piece. Now here's another one that's an open cone that kind of looks like a new. Right, we've got that kind of long comb look, but he's got a different top cap look, and then we don't have that slot. Well, he is a Goodwill, and man, these guys vary quite a bit. They were often put together out of mismatched parts. If you see this kind of top cap, that's a dead ringer that it's a Goodwill. This guy is crazy rough for me. I don't know if there are any smoother Goodwills. There may not be. But I don't use them. I've been trying to figure out if there's a smoother one out there and maybe trade this guy for it. Thank you, Jay. Hey, John, welcome. John's from the UK. I love the worldwide appeal. All right, now we've got some flat bottom news. Now these guys shave me a little bit better among the news. And see, they don't have the raised flat bottom. This one has kind of these funky little round keyholes right here. Hey Tito, Golden Steel, welcome. And this one has slots. And you'll also notice the thinner handles here with the news. These guys. And these are also made in the UK. And you'll notice throughout the history of Gillette that so many times these UK razors are a better quality finish. Their plating industry over there just must have been so much better. It's easy for even a person like me who's not a metallurgist to see how much better the UK stuff is. And so there we got the news, and so then and I believe surely maybe the text came about, right? So let's take a look at the text. And these are one of the great buys out there if you want to get into vintage, because they're a dime a dozen. I've seen so many eBay lots for $25, and you'll get a couple of techs, a couple of super speeds, that sort of thing. And if you want to pay 30 or 35, sometimes you'll get lucky enough to get a couple techs, couple super speeds, and even a slim or something like that, an adjustable. And so these are also, you'll see the handles that we saw earlier. This is the handle that you see with a tech. Thank you, Akime. Welcome, sir. And I like the thickness and the girth of this handle, but it's hollow, and so it really lends toward a head-focused weight distribution. The ball end handle here is solid, and so it has a better balance point. You see that diamond pattern here, the bevel here, that's trademark for most of the standard US techs. If it doesn't have a date code on the underside, then that means it's around what, 48, 49, 50, around that time frame. If it does have a code, then you'll know which date it is. Oh, good, perfect. One of the things you'll hear so much when dealing with techs is pre-war and post-war. Okay. zesty in the market. This guy right here, post-war. You can see the triangle slots. There's a triangle side to these 4 slots. Also, they were so brilliant with a lot of the DE89s and Mercurs and Parker razors and all that. You have to adjust the blade and make sure that it's centered properly. But you see these 4 posts here on the Gillette top caps? It kept those razors aligned absolutely perfectly. Now, this is a post-war tech because the slots are oval and don't have the little triangle tip to them. So they're just oval slotted. The wonderful thing about techs, and I did with this one, is this is a Maggard stainless steel handle, available pretty cheap. And I just slapped it on a pre-war tech, and you know what it did? It gave me the feel that I was using a Feather ASD2, and I really like that kind of long handle feel and all that. Now take a look at the bar handle here. You got one thinner than the other, and take a look at the polish, at the plating. Well, this is the American tech, and this is the UK tech. This is one of my best recommendations for a premium vintage razor right here. This is the flat bottom tech. Man, the focus. See if I can reposition the thing there. Because of the way I'm holding my camera, I can't really see the screen very well. So here's that wonderful little flat bottom. It'll say made in England. And we again see the 4 posts. And here we have somebody has called this a peaked cap because it's not an arch like with the old types made in America. But this one comes to a peak. And somebody once said that they've noticed that peaked cap somehow, if you've got a British Gillette with a peaked cap, like the flat bottom tech, then those are some of the best smoother shavers out there. Well, guess what else has a peaked cap? The legendary hybrid tech. We call it the hybrid tech, but in reality it's the new hybrid. Really might be a more official name. Let's take a look at that. And when we look at the side here, we notice that it does have the slot. Yeah, thank you, Jay, for the focus note there. It does have the little slot. Here's the slot for the new, and it does have that. And there's the top of the base plate. Some of these I haven't used yet. A lot of my older, simpler vintage stuff is back at the other place. And here we go. Look at how similar those top caps are in terms of the structure here. But of course, the reason it's called the hybrid tech is because it's a solid bar and not an open comb. And this is the only case where a new base plate was used with a solid safety bar. And that's why it's so rare and hard to get. The top cap, it's got that peaked triangle type appearance there. It's got those 4 posts, that sort of thing. Oh, HD, I'm really glad. That's one of the reasons I decided to set up over here, was because I'm right next to a window, and so the lighting is going to help me. It actually took a lot of thinking to try to figure out where to do things. So this is that glorious hybrid tech that's made in the UK. It does have the raised flat bottom. And here is the other raised flat bottom new. So it's similar in that, but of course the raised flat bottom new has the open comb, and the hybrid has the solid bar of the safety bar there. And I picked a special UFO Colibri handle to match with this wonderful little piece. Now, This is one of those cases where my opinion is my opinion, but um, this is a coveted razor by many. But to be honest, uh, it's expensive and it's hard to get. It it didn't wow me with the shave. It's a good shave, but you know what shaved me just almost as good, maybe even a little better because I prize smoothness, is this little flat bottom tech right here. And so for my money, and I've advised this many times on my channel, is if you're looking for a hybrid tech, sure, look for it if you want. But find yourself a little flat bottom tech in the meantime and enjoy your shaves for a lot less money. And the shave is going to be very similar and very enjoyable. So those are the techs. Oh, hey, we can't mention the crazy techs, right? The psycho techs, the ones that are industrial, not industrial, hospital, crazy ward, prisons. Fascinating little invention here. The nut that locks down the top cap is way up inside there so that the people using them would not be able to remove the blade and then hurt themselves or others. And so they were sent in boxes with maybe, I don't know the unit, maybe 12, 20, something like that of these razors. And then there would be one key. Now, this particular key is a reproduction, and they do make these. You stick it up in there, it touches the Allen wrench, the Allen bolt that's in there, and now your head comes loose. Yeah, well, during my time in the insane asylum, thank you, Jay, this is the one that they let me take home. And interesting enough, look at that, it's the peaked cap. How about that? This one is not a super smooth shaver. It's a little on the scrapey side, perhaps because it's because it's a thinner base plate. The base plate is much thinner here than on the normal techs. Get that key. And these are hard to come by as well, very hard to come by. And then right after I bought this one, because I didn't really care about having the real key. I just wanted to experience the Psychotech, and I think it's an amazing piece of shaving history. Well, not soon thereafter, and this is kind of how it goes, but this one came along to me. And this is the actual real key. You can see the knurling matches the handle. Ah, there's no more Django. Yeah, he may have created the peaked cap. Gotcha. And so this is the real deal here. And you can see the nurse or the orderly who is responsible for everybody would attach this to their belt or a key ring or whatever, so that when it came time to swap everybody's blade out, they'd be able to do it. And these two have different date codes, and so I'm able to figure out which years these were produced. This one is an S. So that's and these, some people say that the keys are actually more valuable than the razors because there were many fewer, a 20th of these produced versus the razors. All right, so that's the world of the techs. Hey, while we're anybody got any questions on the the news, the old types, the single ring, the techs, that kind of thing? Yeah, HD. The original keys are big time hard to find. They really, really are. So hard to find that I kind of abandoned hope. And um, but one of my deals, and the reason I have so much of this, is that I do a lot of work. I watch the forums and the bazaar and all that. That maybe it's more of a hobby than mine of actual shaving. And and so then when something comes across, I'm able to make an offer. Uh, the Shave Bazaar on Reddit is where I get most of my stuff. Badger and Blade and other places like that have BST sections to their forums, like Damn Fine Shave, Badger and Blade, that sort of thing. And so some of them I get through there. There's some Facebook groups out there that have buy sell trade areas. eBay's, of course, there, but surprisingly, I don't get a lot of stuff through eBay. Michael. See, Michael was a trouble guy in class, a little cutting up, teacher giving the teacher grief. Warren, the flat bottom text, it must just all be geometry. Um, Perhaps let's take a look at the base plate of the flat bottom tech with the standard tech. Also, it's worth saying that there are some techs that are made in later years that are made with Zamac. In the earlier time, they were made from brass, and so they could be lifetime razors if they're made from brass. Um, and so here are the two base plates. Put the top caps down. Now it's surprising how close the American one comes to the edge of the blade. I mean, it really comes very, very close. And so maybe it's the angle in which it holds it, something like that. This still comes close, but this almost looks like it comes even closer. I'm not really sure. It's just got to be the geometry. Samaj, I don't really like the aluminum razors. They're just too light. I like something with some weight so that it moves through the hairs with some inertia, and it has a smoother feel to it. With many aluminum razors, I feel that I am pulling the razor through the hair instead of having it move through itself. Oh, now I forgot to mention this guy right here. He's a little Canadian tech, and they shave well. Let's take a look at the Canadian tech base plate versus the American. Oh yeah, that is different. Do I have two Canadian techs? Oh, that's crazy. And those two are slightly different. And this is a UK tech. Holy cow, do I have an American tech? Okay, good. Here's the American tech. And yeah, I think the British techs shave smoother than the American techs. Okay, here's the British tech. Here's the American. Oh yeah, you can tell the difference. This has a flatter profile here. The floor here. This one is curved. See that? And the support goes all the way down to the edge of the blade. And so this is probably going to have a better grip on your razor blade and therefore smoothness. And then this is a pre-war because we have the triangle slots, but the support doesn't go quite as close to the edge. Best way to sanitize them, you know, I don't know the best way. Barbicide can be used, but use it according to the instructions. Mix it in the right ratio, and then it won't eat away anything. I know that ultrasonic cleaners can be used nicely, but if you want to use that, you got to be careful I've heard that some of the writing and red dots and things like that inside some of these adjustables come off in an ultrasonic cleaner. But I mean, you can just use Dawn. I just use Dawn dish soap and a toothbrush and really hot water. It's kind of what I do. Oh yeah, see, Warren's got a incoming flat bottom. Yeah, he can compare those. I do have a plastic handle tech, and of course, it's going to have a lot more weight focused on the head. I do have that somewhere, but I don't use it very much, and so it's away. I'll have to take time after the video here to reassemble all my techs. I forgot that I had a Canadian and UK and an American techs kind of all together there. The plastic handle ones are kind of neat, um, but I don't know they don't they're so light because the handle um, I don't know that they offer me too much in terms of shave experience, except for just the history of how they were issued, right? This Gibbs is kind of similar to that with kind of a bakelite type handle, and then the head. Oop, there it goes. All right. I have used my Marathon Nasset blade in probably probably all of the top section here. Definitely all of the Aristocrats here. In the lather games, I walked through all my Aristocrats. And the Sheraton right here was a long time holder of the Nasset, right around the 100 count mark. Hey, we just got two shaves before we get to 450. Yes, there may be just a handful here that I have not used the Nasset in. All right, very good, very good. Texas Wrecker, we are going to get to those flare tips. Yes. No, I don't have a travel tech Golden Steel. That hasn't really appealed to me. And some of these I've gotten not because I was chasing them down, but because I bought a group of razors and they were in there, that sort of thing. Yeah, that blade's, oh man, it's lasting so long. It's crazy. But no, actually, I'm thinking maybe I wouldn't be surprised if it did not last another 100 shaves. Um, maybe 60 more, 80 more. That's kind of my guess at this point, but who knows? Who knows? Yeah, I need to find somebody with a microscope to have a look at that guy. I really kind of want to do it before I flip the blade. I want to have a look at what that blade looks like, having only shaved on it on one side the whole time. All right. So that is the vintages. In terms of the early ones, the three-piece open combs and the techs, that kind of thing. Now, Gillette decided to go for convenience. And the first guy they put out was this little guy right here. He was an open comb, and this is the first twist to open. It's an American razor, and is it 34? I can't remember. I know that this second generation one is a 36. Oh, and by the way, if I make an error in here, I'm sure somebody will point it out. And for those maybe watching non-live after the fact, I'll put any redactions, any corrections in the comment of the video, just so that everybody we keep things correct. So this guy shaves wonderfully. He's not super smooth, but you know what? They kind of fixed that when they brought along his little son. This is the 36 Aristocrat, and he's very hard to tell the difference. When I was trying to buy this guy on eBay, I bought this guy by mistake because the guy said it was a 34. And he didn't know. Well, when you have them side by side, it's pretty easy to see the difference. One has a thicker head than the other one. But when you only see one on eBay, you don't have that frame of reference. And here, I will tell you the other secret in telling these guys apart. What you do is you look under the head. And I hope the focus works out to where you can see it. Okay, my fingernail here is pointing to this little rivet thing, the little joint right here on the four corners. And same thing right there. Now I want to tell you right. The first TTO, the 34 here, we'll wait for the focus to kind of catch up. There we go. The first one, you cannot see the little round rivets right here. There's this angled piece of metal coming out, and that's the 34. That's the original. Yes. And then here's the 36, and you can see a little bit of the round rivet right there. And that's really the only way. There are writings here around the bands, and those are not conclusive. The only conclusive thing that I've done a lot of research here, is the height of the head and the little rivets underneath. If you see them as round rivety things, and there is a slight angled piece right there, but if you see the roundness in there, then that's the 36. And the 36 is a really enjoyable shaver. For me, it is smoother and more comfortable than the 34. The second generation, if you want to call it the second generation, then we will. I think they both hold the blade pretty well. It's just that maybe the 36 has a little bit better geometry, more curve to the blade perhaps. Let's take a look at the base plate. I'll bet they're pretty much identical in terms of the actual contour of the base plate. Yeah, they pretty much look identical. They may not be at a minute level, of course, but I think it's just the curvature, perhaps. And as always, when you're buying open combs online, look at the four corners of the teeth there. Now you look right here, they were smart enough, they actually built in a little bit more support there on this 34 and on the 36. They built in a little more support because they knew those were the ones that were going to get bent. And a bent tooth on the corner does not mean that the razor is not going to shave you well. Most of the time, the best thing to do is leave it alone and just enjoy shaving with it. If you try to bend it out, a lot of times it'll just cause it to break off. If you're a metallurgist and you know how to maybe properly heat it or something like that, and you want to bend it out, then you're probably the only guy who's going to be able to do it right. All right, and then since we're in the world of aristocrats, this guy's an old beat up aristocrat. And he's not really a great buy, in my opinion. Now he illustrates how some of them, the early ones, do not have end caps. You can see the split, and that's the way it's supposed to look. But then later on, here's that split, but you see this one, it was supposed to have a glued on end cap right there on both sides, and that has since fallen off. I do like about this razor Mythbusters, there we go. I do like about this razor the heft. It's got kind of a fat boy thickness to it. I really enjoy that part. I like its balance in my hand. I like its very nice grip here. But the shave is kind of mid-range. And so if you want something that's not quite super smooth, and you want something a little more aggression, then this guy might give that to you. But to me, he kind of shaves the same as a lot of the super speeds. Um, and and so I don't use my Aristocrat a lot, even though I think it's a beautiful piece. This is one that I got as a part of a lot. My real one that I have is somewhere else. A lot of that gold finish. And let's have a little reminder, guys. Be careful what you clean your razors with, because there are some gold wash type razors that. Thank you, HD. End caps are overrated. There are some gold finishes that will just kind of leave you if you use the wrong kind of cleaning agent on it. So jump online and ask people who know. Now, right here, they look pretty much the same. Now, if anybody's watched my videos, then this is not going to be a secret. Anybody want to jump in and tell me what the difference is? Other than one's gold and one's silver? One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. All right, here it is. This guy is harder to find. This guy is all over the place. And here's why. This is the Gillette President. If you look at the knurling on this little band here between the twist knob and the main handle part, it has knurling on the bumps. This one just has the bumps. No knurling on these little bumps right here. Exactly, Warren. And so that makes this, once you know how, easy to identify as the President. He's rare, he's harder to find. Some people say that they shave the same as the Aristocrats, but in my experience, it's a smoother shave that I enjoy a lot more. And I don't think it's the power of suggestion with it being a more expensive razor. No, they not. They didn't both used to be gold. So this is the Gillette President. And of course, they're hollow. These Aristocrats are hollow, and so are the 34 and the 36. In the English Aristocrats that we'll get to in a minute, I love those, and that hollowness is going to be a nice discerning factor to help you identify which ones they are. All right, so we're looking at Aristocrats there. Let's address. There was somebody who posed a question. I didn't want to forget it. Texas said, "Does your Gillette flare tip feel like a Muley R41 when you shave with it?" No, sir. Here is a flare tip, standard super speed flare tip, and of course here is the flared tip. Now this one, wait a minute. This is the English Rocket flare tip, the English Rocket super speed, slightly different. And I'll show you. Here's the standard one right here. And here again, the difference between the two, and I haven't studied this exactly, but obviously you can look. This one has a slight little extra ring here above the dial, and this one doesn't. There's a bigger gap right here. This is the British one, the Rocket flare tip. This is the standard American flare tip. And you know what? I immediately noticed the difference when I opened the tray. This one has sharper definition and bevels than the American one. Isn't that funny? You know, they used to say that with the Secret Service, they trained them to recognize American currency by just having them like memorize and be so familiar with the American dollar, the real ones, that they could spot them instinctively if they were counterfeit. Yes, Q and A. I agree with you, HD. I think the rocket mechanism is a little better. But yeah, those beveled, I knew that the angles in there and the finish as well. It's shinier. It's a higher quality finish. That jumped out at me and said, "Wait a minute, look closer." And sure enough, it was a different one. So the question we're addressing here is, with this standard American super speed, does it shave similar to the R41? Well, maybe for some people, but not for me at all. I found the R41 to be highly aggressive, where this guy was just a little bit kind of scrapey feeling, almost like a DE89 type. He didn't have a great lockdown on the blade, just a little bit scrapey feeling, not too bad. I actually smoother than the DE89 to me, and I wouldn't have a problem using them if I had to, but I wish they were a little bit smoother. My favorite smoothest super speed is this one, the 40s style. You can see it doesn't have the flared tip. It's noticeably smoother than the flare tip super speeds. So that answers Texas's question. All right. Do we have any questions about the Aristocrats that we covered here? You know what? I don't think that I have a red tip made in England. Nope. This red tip is USA. I wouldn't mind picking one of those up, but it's kind of on my low priority list because I don't shave with the red tip very much. Yeah, Michael is also not a fan of the R41. I'm glad the R41 exists. Matter of fact, while we're talking about it, let me get it out for you. I have, hey, you guys, if you have multiple heads, go to the Dollar Tree. This little guy right here is almost the perfect size for holding your base plates very nicely. The R41 is right here. Now the fatigues are a little bit wider, and so they have a harder time fitting in here. And this is that Knight's helmet from Yaki. It's wider, and so I had to put it in the bigger section. But here is that R41 head that we're talking about. It doesn't have very much of an arc there, and it's got a lot of exposure. And man, that is just very, very aggressive for me. I have it just as a reference point. Someday I wonder if my face will change. I doubt it. But I never shave with it willingly. Okay, Golden Steel said the English red tip is said to be a little more aggressive. Um, the Let's look at the super speed since we're talking about those. I wish I had my black handled and my black tip, but I don't. The black tip looks more like it doesn't have a flare tip. The black tip super speed has, and a lot of them are plastic. There are a few metal knobs, but a lot of them are plastic dial knobs here at the end. But this last little guy right here is black, and the rest of it looks like the 40 style. And then with the black handled super speed, it's very similar to the standard, but it's just got a black painted handle with a silver knob right here. Yeah, Michael, I agree. The blade is just way too flat. Hey, Alex, welcome. So, one of the big differences they did, and blue is the mildest of the super speeds according to Gillette, and black falls somewhere in the middle. Here's the standard, and then the red was the most aggressive. One of the ways they made that happen was the weight of the handle. This has a smaller, lighter handle, standard, and then this has a thicker, heavier handle. In the early days, I thought that that was the only difference, and some people actually will say that. However, I did more studying, and apparently there is some belief that the geometry in the heads is slightly different. I don't know if that's true for sure. I need to do some testing and see if I can feel any difference, but I could be. It could be a slightly more aggressive feel here with this head. If anybody has played around with that, feel free to chime in on the comments. Hakime, the Knight's helmet was too aggressive for him as well. Yeah, man, me too. Man, I don't have my level one charcoal goods because it was so aggressive for me. Even the level one, I had to sell it and find another home for it. It's, and Michael Friedberg recommended maybe some uh, big regrets, and there are some ways that you could kind of put that or interpret that. And one of those is that I might interpret the big regrets idea is razors that I really wished I could shave with, but I couldn't. And that charcoal goods level one is one of those. I had the antique bronze finish, and I had the dual helix handle. Such a beautiful, beautiful razor, but it was just too aggressive for me. And the Blackbird from Blackland is the other one that's in that same vein. Just too aggressive for me. So beautiful. Shane's a great guy, great workmanship, but it's just too aggressive for me. Hey, Zachary, welcome. Okay. Hey, I just saw the other day how Charcoal Goods had opened up their website to handles. So that's really cool, huh? All right. Okay, very good. So we jumped ahead a little bit with the super speeds to answer some of those questions. Yeah, I'm glad they're getting started back. So maybe you guys who want a level one or something like that can do it. I do have the everyday, and that's a lovely razor that I enjoy from Charcoal Goods that I can use every day. It's a lot more mild than their standard the head. All right, so let's finish up with the aristocrats from the UK. Oh man, now some of these razors are made to such wonderful appearances. You know, the Wolfman. I mean, the gloss on these guys is just terrific. You can look underneath, and you've got that mirror finish. The edges are all just finished, but they're not over curved like you might see with a thick plating job. But it's crisp but not sharp, you know. And so there's so many that have that. This carbon has such a neat, crisp, lean feel to it. The plating on the UK Tex is terrific. Um, the the let's see what else jumps out at me nicely. The Sterling razor, not they didn't quite finish it as much, quite as high, and I don't care about that. I'm fine with that because Rod said that would have added a lot more cost, right? And look, the you can still see some mill marks in here, so uh, that's not going to matter in terms of the feel of the razor. But there are some that are just elite level in terms of the finish. And this next category is some of those. These UK Gillettes, the finish is just amazing. The feel. Now, some of them will have. Let's see if I have an example. Like the finish here is coming off just a little bit because these are very old. But sometimes they'll have little specks right here because there were some of them that were finished in a thin type of way that wasn't quite as good, and so it'll almost be like freckles, and you can see that on eBay and other places like that. The Blackland era, from my look about the Blackland era, it sure does look like a razor that I would enjoy having, and so I'm definitely going to keep my eye on that one. The everyday was a little disappointing with me because I was used to the artistry behind the charcoal goods head. But look right here, it is kind of thick. I don't really care about that too much, but it just looks like a guy with a round router bit kind of went at it, you know. But maybe that's what they had to do to keep costs low so that they could push a bunch of these razors out, you know. And I'm fine with that. It shaves wonderfully. Do I If I do 3 shave and I feel stubble still around, what will you do to increase the razor aggressiveness or sharper blades? Thank you. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, Alex, I'll be glad to touch on that. Feel free to copy that question and paste it again later on, sir. Um, yeah, shipping, unfortunately with charcoal goods, I could definitely see how shipping is costly. That's for sure. All right. So, where I was getting to with these UK aristocrats, the plating is often really wonderful. Sometimes it does have a few blemishes, but they just and here this one's got some wear with the case it was put in. But I mean, goodness, the fineness of the knurling here is just nuts. You've got the main veins going through here, but these ultra fine little guys, and so they grab onto you and hold, and they feel nice and soft, but they work really well when they're in use. Now this guy is the 15, and it looks like, this looks like a CNC milling machine did that, and then it was finished even better. It's just crazy. In a minute, after I show you these guys, we will look at some of the ways to tell them apart. And I've talked about that on my channel before, and so it might not be new news for some of you guys. But this guy right here, he's an open comb. He's the first generation, as far as I know, of the UK aristocrats. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the identifying marks. How do we know he's a 15? He's got a hollow handle. This one is the 16. He's got a solid handle. Okay. This band right here, in case the person on eBay doesn't show you the bottom, this band right here is pretty much flush with the surface of the handle. With the 16, there's an indent because that's part of the tightening in the knob and the mechanism like that. The 15 is open comb. I believe there were some 15s that were solid bar, but it's really hard to know because another big thing about these British aristocrats is that the number doesn't match the razor. The number is not supposed to match the razor. I'll use it that way, but what the number matches is the set. And so that shipper box that the razor came in with the blades and the case, the metal case that the razor would be in, that whole box, that's the set, and that was called the 15. And this would be the razor that's in the 15. And that's something important to know about the Gillette UK aristocrats. Yes, Warren, that is very true. I find a lot less chatter in the UK razors. Michael, roger that. I understand. Thank you for joining. Great to have you. And so the 15 is open comb here. We look at the base plate. We have a flat, solid base plate. This guy right here is similar to the 15 in many respects. Not that one. Here is the beveled diamond shaped base plate, much like a Tech or Super Speed or that kind of thing. If you see that diamond, you know it's not a 15, it's not a 16. That flat base plate tells you it is a, combined with all the other items. Now, some of the aristocrats can be identified by these little flares right here. That can be a date. There was a date where they started notching this center bar here. And so in the early days, you'll have these T's at the end. So that's the 15. Now this is probably a 21, came from a 21 set. He's hollow like the 15. He has that flush right here like the 15, but he's not open comb. Have the flat base plate, but he's not open comb. He could be a 15. Now there may be some of the writing here that you could research. It was hard to find concrete info about this. He could be a 15, but he's most likely a 21. The 15 shaves wonderfully, very smooth, definitely defeats the attitude that an open comb is aggressive. The 66, I'm sorry, the 16 right here is the little sister, little brother to the 15. He's got solid handle. He's got that gap right here. He does have that a very similar flat base plate, but he's a solid bar, and that's how to tell him apart. And these, I mean, what there are is like they're like shaving with jewelry, and that's what I was leading up to when I was talking about the quality. These guys right here, the 15 rare and pricey. The 16 rare and pricey. The 21 not quite so much. This guy right here, similar to the 66, but I'm sorry, similar to the 16, but this is the 66. Has the same solid as the 16, same solid bar as the 16, but when you open him up, he's got that bevel. He's got that diamond plate. You know, that's a great question about the difference between a three-piece versus a butterfly. And in the case of the super speeds, there's more chatter with these kind of blades than with a potentially a three-piece, but it really depends on the design because the 15 and the 16 here hold the blade really well and they're twist to opens. There's a little bit of flex with like the fat boys and the that sort of thing, but it's all about the geometry. There are in each group there are ones that don't hold the blade quite as well, and then there are some that really do. Great question. And now here's the guy. Here's the guy that if you're interested in one of these, you got this beautiful handle with the nice checking and knurling and stuff, and he still shaves really really well. Not quite as good as the 16, but his price point is much more achievable. And so he's the 66 or the 21. If you like these beautiful razors, then they might be the ones to chase down first if you want. Now, let's see. One of these guys, let me see if I can find him. This guy's made in England, and I believe he is a Aristocrat Junior, perhaps. Yeah, maybe the 51. I think perhaps there's a neat Aristocrat Junior page out there on like maybe the Shave Nook or something like that. That's a great resource. Now this one is made in England, and notice he's got that flat base plate. He's going to shave really well, generally speaking. And no, this one actually might be the Aristocrat Junior 51. I can't remember. I'm really sorry. I don't shave with these too often, and so I don't have a lot of this stuff memorized like I do the other stuff. But they look very similar, and as you can tell, but the base plate, one has the diamond base plate, and the other one has the flat, solid base plate. And so that's how you're going to tell the difference there. All right, so that's all those glorious little Aristocrats. Anybody have any question about the beautiful English Aristocrats or these Aristocrat Juniors? Oh, and I've almost forgot to talk about the Sheraton. This is an open comb. The Senator and the Sheraton are they may even be identical. He has the same handle as this little guy. Look at that. This is a Ranger Tech. He's got basically the same handle as the Ranger Tech, but he's open comb instead. He's got no end caps, and this is a wonderfully smooth shaver. Unfortunately, he's not all that common. Very nice. All right. Nope, don't see any questions. We'll move on to the some of the other open, the butterfly type razors, the twist to open. We've got two right here. One of these I just recently got in the mail. And at first I thought I had purchased the same identical one, but this is a newer one, and I thought that mine maybe didn't look quite as good, and I was right. This is the one I've had for a while. This is the Rocket HD. And I noticed after doing some research, there is a subtle difference other than the apparent wear. They're both, I love the weight. These are kind of heavier razors. That's why they call them the HD, of course. If you look inside the little diamond well, there's a difference. One of them says Brit Pat, and it's got a patent number, and the other one says patent pending. And so I did a little bit of reading, and I think what that means, one of these might be the HD 500, and one of them might be just the normal Rocket HD. I'm not exactly sure about that. I'll have to look at it more later. But as you can see, that's one of those little details that you can discover, and that can make a difference into what exactly your razor is. Here's an example of the notched center bar, and that was a little gimmick that Gillette had when you could hold your pack of razor blades and then use the little notch to pull the razor blade out of the pack without having to touch the blade with your hands. And so it was like a safety gimmick. But I don't think it really took on in a big way. But that's why we have notches on our safety bars in many cases. So those are the Rocket HDs. I wish they had a smoother shave, but it's a nice shave, kind of mid-range. Just a touch of chatter, a touch of kind of medium-level aggression. It's a nice all-around. Okay, Samaj. The patent pending might mean that it helps you to date, to put it in the right date range. Thank you. That might be right. Very good. All right. We already kind of talked about the super speeds. This is my favorite little super speed. And if you're jumping into budget, if you want to get into the vintage razors at a budget level, then I think this is definitely one to pursue. He's not quite as cheap as like an old type or a tech, but I think $15 or $20, you should be able to pick one up. And he's very smooth. He's got a nice lock on the blade, just because of great geometry, just because of the design of the base plate of the head there. And I always like the look of him. For some reason, never gravitated toward the flared tips, although they are very practical. When there are certain strokes that I make where I hold a razor like this, that I like the flared tips quite a bit. So this is, we call this the 40 style. When this came out, it wasn't called the 40 style. And if they don't have a date code, that means they're in the early range of the 40s, the latter range of the 40s, 48, 49, 50, that sort of thing. But some of them do have a date code, and of course that'll tell you. Now here, got a little difference. Going to do the Sesame Street thing. One of these things is not like the other, and I kind of pointed it out earlier. We got this little shiny band right here. This one, it's knurled like the rest of the handle. This is the standard super speed. This is the Ranger Tech. A lot more rare and more valuable. He doesn't shave any better, but he is, sometimes he'll be sold as a normal Tech, but he actually is worth a lot more because he's a Ranger Tech. We already covered the super speeds and the flare tips, and then we covered this section here. So that is the vintage. Any question about any of the vintage razors? Oh no, go ahead and put in your questions while I cover the last couple. This is an ABC Pocket Edition. On the back it usually has some cool, it actually says Pocket Edition. Gillette safety razor, that sort of thing. King Gillette, all that. Got a basket weave pattern on it. Sometimes the cases are in good shape, sometimes they're not. This is the blade bank. This one happens to be in pretty nice shape. They can get pretty expensive. I got a good deal on this one. They're sometimes hard to come by. Look at that handle. It's easy to see how different it is if you know what to look for. Here's an old type handle, and this is the Pocket Edition handle. This one tapers and gets smaller. They both have kind of rounded balls on the end. This one is a different pattern, but mainly that taper is going to be an easy identifier that it's not an old type, because after all, look, it is basically just kind of a thin head with an open comb. But if you look at it, the head is different. It's got that little washer there to keep things flat. It's like a a built-in washer. It's probably just a part of the metal, not really a washer. But it's very flat. Oh, look, it's indented. That's what it is. Some of these older guys, like including the new improved and stuff, will have serial numbers right here, and sometimes that can often lead you to a pretty precise dating of these guys. Wonderful finish on this one. Oh, I don't need to assemble him because he's going back in his case. Pretty cool little guy. The curved solid bar razor on the right side in the middle. Right here. I did not mention him. Oh yeah, there are a few razors right here I didn't mention. These are vintage pieces. This is one that I had never, if this is the one you're talking about, this is one I've never actually seen before. And on the underside, the finish here looks like that it's a zinc alloy type makeup here. It says Pomco, Pomco. And then made in the USA and patent pending. And so I looked up Pomco, and this looks apparently like a lady's razor. On one side, it's very interesting. It is a twist type device here. And so it's a two-piece. One side is a slant that way. And the other side is a curve. And so the blade is torsioned in a couple different ways here. A standard slant type here, where there's not really a twist going on. And then over here, an arcing. I don't know of too many other razors that do that. Isn't that interesting? And no, I had not mentioned that. I have not shaved with it yet. I imagine that I did put a blade in it the other day, and this side over here looked quite aggressive. But this guy probably is more like a normal slant, so I might try him out. This one maybe I'll have to call a her. Oh, okay. Chewbacca might have a video on the Pomco. All right, very nice. And while we're here, why don't we cover the other razors down here? This is very akin to a super speed. This is the Schick Krona. It's a nice value razor. I really enjoy this conical handle. Very easy to hold on to. It feels very lithe and maneuverable because when you hold it up here, just a little turn and you've got nice maneuverability. But then back here, you've got great strength and support. I think it's a brilliant design. Unfortunately, it kind of holds the blade, kind of like the standard super speeds with just a touch of chatter to it, kind of in a mid-range aggression. And that's not my favorite. And so I did just use it once. And put it away. But this is another one that's very, very common. See it all the time on eBay. A good razor for general folks. Oh, so Pomco. Yeah, there you go. It's Pomco. There's a gents razor as well, Samaj thinks. Very cool. I love having various levels of experience here. Very cool. I did show you the Gibbs, but before I show you the three Gibbs in more detail, I'll show you this guy. Just picked him up. Haven't had a chance to shave with him yet. There are lots of, this is a lot, right? But internationally speaking, over in Russia and Poland and stuff, man, there's all kinds of razors going on. Well, and I've had to ignore those because it's just too deep of a hole. The reason I picked this guy up, he's aluminum. But I picked him up because he is a Wizamet brand, just like our blades. And so I figure I'd give him a shot. Very light, stamped base plate here, quite thin. I'll have to pick that up in a minute. But very light aluminum handle. So that's a Wizamet double-edged razor. Very curious as to how that guy's going to work out. The other, okay, good. Now we can do the Gibbs here. I tell you what, Another of the big surprises that came in this hobby. Oh, HD, are they hard to find? Well, that's cool. Yeah, I definitely hadn't seen too many of them at all. Um, Very cool. That's good to know. Little treasure, a diamond I didn't know I had. Speaking of diamonds, one of you guys in the shaving hobby loaned me a razor that was this model here, the Gibbs 17, and it shaved me like butter. It was so smooth. And like carved razors do, it has a very wide range of settings that are happy for me. Whereas the standard Gillette adjustables, I like to stick around 3 or 4 or so. But with this guy, I was able to shave with almost the whole range. But the smoothness here was something just I had not really seen in an adjustable razor. And it's so good, in fact, that that's what the Rex Ambassador is based on. And it's what where did it go? Here it is. It's what the Pearl Shaving Flexi is based on. You can tell I'm getting a little hoarse from talking so much. Thanks for letting me know about that, HD. It is very head heavy because the blackness here is plastic. The key comes out, and the black actually does unscrew for cleaning and things like that. And there you go. It's very elegantly designed. The reason you don't see too many out, they are rare, but they don't use DE blades unless you tweak them a little bit. You got to get a punch and make room for these little posts in the center. Now it's easy. It's a piece of cake. You can even do it with a piece of scissors. Not a problem. I like to use the punch because then it lets me have a blade to adjust. But, oh man, this shaves marvelously. So, just such a wonderful razor. And what I did was I started taking a Nasset and an Astra and a Feather, and I would punch them. And so then I swap between those Gibbs blades when I want to use this razor. And I don't mind the maintenance at all. Now, the catch is, I'm going to show you this. I bought one of these are really pricey on eBay. I bought one of these and it wasn't smooth. Still a good shaver, but it didn't have that buttery smoothness that the one that the gentleman let me borrow. In the plastic handle, I think there is a metal ferrule in there with the threading. But over here, you can see how that looks. It looks different if it's the other kind of number 17 that's not as smooth. This is the smooth version right here. Are we getting good focus? Let me move my hands over. Maybe that'll help. So this one's the smooth version. I think it's more of a metal nut right here. It's more evident with the other one. Now they do sell on Etsy some aftermarket handles right here that can replace it with like copper or stainless steel or something like that. I might get one of those someday. And there we go. Maybe about the smoothest vintage razor out there. Definitely the smoothest adjustable, in my opinion. Alex, the Rex Ambassador just didn't work out for me. It did not shave smoothly like this guy at all. Even when I went to lower settings, like a 1 or a 2, the Ambassador still felt kind of chattery and tenuous. And so it is one of the ones that I did not keep, and I sold it to somebody else. The other Gibbs razor that we've good point, HD. Thank you, Lampros. Just because it's hard to find doesn't mean it's super desirable. Yeah, that's right. Mike, roger that. Rewatch it later. Hey, a lot of the Gibbs will tell you the number on the bottom. It might be the 14. I can't remember. One of the posts has been broken off. Now, some people I've seen on YouTube, how people will put a blade in here, a standard DE blade, and they'll close it on top. It's an unmodified DE blade, and then they'll squeeze it together really hard. And sure, that does break the edges of the blade to where it will fit. But man, something in me definitely disagrees with that. I think that would put too much wear on this vintage, head, that sort of thing. So there's no way I'm doing that. And as you can see, this guy is not adjustable. However, look at this. They did make a plus side and a minus side. And a lot of the Gibbs are like this. And this particular model is not super smooth like the adjustable brother. It is a little on the kind of scrapey side, that sort of thing. I definitely prefer the minus side. And you can, the way they differ is because the minus side has a thicker side here, and the plus side has a thinner one. And so that way it doesn't matter. It's a clever way they did it. It didn't matter if you spun it one way or the other. If you installed it, there is no backwards or wrong way to install it. Since this is plastic, it is kind of head heavy, but it's definitely a neat little razor, little piece of history there. I have seen some that are Gibbs like this with the plus minus that have metal handles. Now this guy is an interesting and unique Gibbs razor. Plastic handle here. Got to be careful because he unscrews, but he stays connected to the base plate. He has the plus and minus as well. Got kind of a peaked cap there. There we go. Get the focus right. Like a chevron. And what he is you'll notice that he doesn't have any of those posts. He's the only Gibbs that can use standard DE blades. He also does, like his other plus or minus brother in my den, have a little bit of a scrapey feel to him. But he's very rare, and I actually came across this guy as a new old stock purchase. So he's never been used before. He's brand new. I have used him once. So those are the Gibbs. And I don't think I've missed. Oh, yeah, let's talk about the vintage adjustables here. Twist open. Of course, you've got the Fat Boy. And he's the first one that came out. He was produced for 4 years. And you can tell a little bit of the difference by looking at like the gap here and maybe the gap up here. If you get a website that shows you the 4 different versions. But also there is a difference that can be seen down here. There is one, you see those two? There are 2 little bits right there. Some of them don't have that. Some of these can be disassembled by uncrimping this, and some of them don't, or some of them can be just unscrewed. And so that is a difference. I like the weight and heft of the Fat Boy myself. Now they decided to make some improvements to this model, and so they came out with the Slim after those 4 years of Fat Boy. And he's a little bit more head focused in terms of weight, and the head's not as thick. A lot of people like the geometry and the feel, the smoothness here of the Slim better, and I maybe can tell a difference, but not enough to have me use the Slim since I like the girth and the hold of the Fat Boy a little better. But this is a wonderful razor, high quality brass construction, going to last forever. And so if you're going to get into vintage, this one's going to be $10 to $15 less than the Fat Boy because a lot more of these Slims were produced. Those are vintage Gillette adjustables, and these other 2 here are along the same vein with the Fat Boy and the Slim. Very similar to a Slim. We call these Black Beauties. And as you can see, one handle is longer than the other. So this version is the long handle Black Beauty. This one is special to me because it's the same model that my grandfather used and that I actually used for my first blade shave. These are wonderful shavers, very similar to the Slim. They hold the blade nicely. I wish that the black offered a little bit more ballast here on the end to kind of come with that extra length, but it doesn't really. Awesome razors. Now this is one that Somebody else in the shaving hobby, I think maybe it was Kyle, sold this to me, and it's black rhodium and then standard rhodium. It's had a plating job done on it, black rhodium for the doors as well. It is a really beautiful piece. It's my only one that I have that's been has been a colored plate job, on it. I think it's really neat. Thank you, Harvey. Okay, so that covers the vintage. Any questions on vintage? Very cool. All right. The Black Land by Shane. Nice craftsmanship here. And this is the Dart. And I did discover that his polished version was more aggressive than his machined version. This is the machined one. I guess the polished version allowed for more gap. It created more gap. And even this one, I don't use it too much because it's right above my line of tolerance regarding aggression. But I just haven't managed to bring myself to sell it because it's so beautiful. It's one of the few that I bought when it came out. This Saber is a single-edged razor, and the level 1 base plate is quite smooth. And so I bought the level 2. Here's the gloss and the polish of the level 2. And the rest of the razor is a matte finish or machine finish. And he's got such a clever design where that post is slim in its design, where it goes right through the blade. You don't really see that in any of the other gem type single edge razors. It makes the handle a little bit easier to cross thread, but just take your time and you'll get it right. It rides that middle line between the vintage single edge razors like this, and they have a lot more audio feedback to you. This guy's much more firm and more mild. This is one, I believe. No, can't remember. This is a Featherlight, but HD Shave sent me. So this is a really nice way. This is probably, you could say this Saber here is a nice way to get into single edge if you're a little bit afraid of the aggressiveness of some of the other single edge. But we have discovered that the guys who use the Micromatic Open Comb, a legendarily rough shaver, they did the whole month of August with it. And so with good practice, perhaps, it can help to mitigate even the rough Micromatic Open Comb. But this guy is more user-friendly right from the get-go. We have some Razor Rock. These were very interesting. These are the Mambas with the halo handles. We have the Mamba 50 and the Mamba 70. The 50 was the OG. And then the Mamba 70 was a little bit more aggressive. At first I thought these were quite smooth. And then I revisited them years later. And even the 50, it just doesn't have quite a good grip on the blade. And so I stopped recommending them quite as much for smooth shavers. It is still a great buy as a stainless steel razor, but you can see why. Look how narrow this plate is right here. And so the blade support just doesn't go right up to the edge of the blade very closely at all. And so that's why you get more chatter with this one. You can obviously hear that the chatter and the smoothness. The chatter is very important to me in my personal shaving experience. This is I like this one a lot more from Razor Rock. This is the Game Changer. This is one of their knurled, super knurled handles, often available on sale, a great buy. And here's the Game Changer base plate. I found the 68 base plate to be too mild for me, but if you want a mild razor, then check out the 68. This is the 84, and I find it a wonderfully nice mid-range razor that's quite smooth. Now, a lot of these handles are compatible with each other. The Carve is not compatible. The Rockwell is not compatible. And there are some other ones. If you want to go to sugardaddyShaves.com, I did do a page with the threading with a lot of these popular razors. The Gibbs is definitely in a world of its own as well. So that's the Razor Rock ones. Here is that Pearl Shaving Flexi. Man, this guy is a heavy beast. He's a two-piece. design, and this is the fifth version. I look forward in a few days to shave with the seventh edition that they sent me. Great customer service with those guys. Zesty Calco as well. That's a great question, actually, Zesty. I personally, with the vintage Gillettes, when I adjust it, I always open the doors and release that pressure a little bit. I'm not speaking from authority here because I have read from somebody, and that person in my research had a lot of experience maintaining and repairing these razors. It may have been Captain somebody, and they said, and it seemed to be very authoritative, that it doesn't matter. Well, for me, I feel like it seems like less wear, and so I do release the pressure to make adjustments. But it seems like with these guys, they're designed to let you do it even if you don't release the pressure, even if you don't open the doors. So the Flexi, I've been very happy with the shave in general. It's not quite as smooth as at least the fifth generation, not quite as smooth as the Gibbs, but really very nice. I'm looking forward to it, to trying out the other guy, the new one I got in. The Fine Accoutrements put out a stainless razor for a little while there. I don't know if it's still going on, but it's a very nice mid-range. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's really overpriced, and so I did get this one on the used market, and I think that's a fair price for it that I got it for. But for full retail, there probably better options for you out there. But I mean, it does look very nice in terms of the milling, the base plate here, that sort of thing. I'm really happy about that. It has a nice mid-range feel, pretty smooth, and I've got good shaves with a good number of blades with it. The handle is kind of disappointing. It's kind of got that common bar look of the Gillette vintage ones, and I wish for such an expensive razor it would have been a little bit more effort there. But it is practical. It balances the razor nicely, and the knurling is not going to let you drop the razor. So if you can buy that at used prices, I highly recommend that one. We've already covered the charcoal goods. I did manage to find an anchor handle. The other handles, like the Maze and the double helix, were a little too short for me. And so the kind of looks like the Goodwill, Gillette Goodwill with these diamond shapes right there. It's a mild, smooth razor that I do enjoy shaving with. Kind of on the heavy side, and the head is kind of on the clunky side. Now, these guys right here, boy, I tell you what, Sterling came out with a stainless razor. And one of these is the Dallas and one is the Austin. And I can't decide which handle I like better. In theory, I like this one better because this is where I want to hold the razor. This one, it doesn't have knurling really where I want to hold the razor. However, when I'm using this razor, I find that this handle, I find that my parts of my fingers gravitate toward the smooth areas, and so I don't end up with kind of quite the feel that I want. Whereas at least with this one, I may not be holding it in the center of gravity. However, I've got a great fixed hold on it, and I kind of like the way that feels in my hand better. So I kind of can't decide. But regarding the heads, one of these is the high aggression head, and one is the standard aggression head, which Rod has told us is still quite aggressive. And so both of these really are too aggressive for me. And so I'll probably be selling the heads. I think I haven't decided yet. I'll definitely be selling the head for the high aggression. I just don't need that much aggression myself. But they're beautiful pieces. The handles especially are gorgeous. Harvey says, "Do you prefer open comb or closed comb?" And to me, it's not a difference really. There are open combs that are too aggressive for me, just like there are solid bars that are too aggressive for me. And with the carve was very interesting because he's got open comb base plates, and they're mild and very enjoyable. And so it was a neat way to experience an open comb versus a solid bar in a nice comparable experience, comparable experience. And I think It's hard to describe the difference between the two. The open comb almost had a lighter feel as it moved across my face. And I think I preferred that a little bit. However, I still really love the solid bar as well. And so open combs don't really bother me very much. Some people stay away from them because they think they're too aggressive. But with a lot of the razors that I have, open comb does not mean more aggressive, except for this turd of a beast right here. Oh, my friends. I love Timeless. I love the 68. It is so smooth. The 95 is still a daily driver for me that I still can use any day. However, when I got the open comb for the 68, I thought, let's try it out. Man, this thing is so much more aggressive to my face than the solid bar, even the 95. I could not use, I had to, it's one of those, I did one stroke on my face and I put it away. I couldn't do it. It was too much. Now, later on, in maybe the 200 count area of the Nasset, I did use this razor is a vital part of that because the blade had been so smoothed out that this razor and its aggression were a good user of that blade. But man, with a normal use blade in here of a pretty young, then no, sir. Too aggressive for me. You know, that's a good question about the Marvel, Warren. It might be a wide gap, but you know what? Gap's not the best measure of aggression. If it's got a wide gap, and I think you might be right about that, then what it must be doing is recessing that blade back a little more. Maybe it's sticking the safety bar out some more to make it a more manageable razor for people like me. And so they must be adjusting other parts of the geometry to make it good. The Feather ASD2 is a wonderful, highly mild razor that I find is magic when I put a feather blade in it. It is a matte finish. But there are other blades that I put in it that don't shave me very well at all. And so, if you like things, if you have highly sensitive skin, then this is definitely one to think about. The Razor Rock Game Changer 68 might be another. The Rocknell, I love this handle. It's got nice girth, thickness. But it's quite an aggressive razor. I'm sorry, aggressively priced razor. And it shaves well. However, with the price tag, I would kind of expect more interesting or complex geometry here in the base plate. And this is one that has kind of a thin area of support, but somehow it manages to shave fairly smoothly. And I can tell the tooling here just isn't very sophisticated. We've got a round guy that came in here to do the slots, a round guy that comes in here to make the kind of the combs here, and then some bevels, and that's about it. And so I would expect that level of elementary tooling to be to make the razor cost less. So that's a little bit of a disappointment, but it shaves decently, and I love the handle, so I'm having trouble getting rid of it. I don't know if I will or not. Now, on to my favorite razor in the world, Car of Christopher Bradley. I did buy the stainless steel, and this one, the reason I bought it is because this is the 01 serial number. This is the very first one that rolled off the line. Pretty cool. But I love the brass. I love the warmth of the feel. I love the patina. And like I said, it's got a nice range of base plates that I can enjoy and fine-tune my shave. Instead of just finding one or two that are my happy, and then everything else is either too mild or too aggressive. I was able to go all the way from AA for super smooth shaves, all the way up to D, which I could use any day. But then E, I jumped to E on the solid bar, and it was too aggressive for me by quite a good margin. Timeless, we have this titanium version, which I've been using lately on the channel, and it's a wonderful, wonderful piece. This is the 68 gap, and so smooth. Now, I love the titanium in this because this is such a heavy, bulky handle that the titanium really helps it to feel more like an average-sized weighted razor. Normally, I don't have very much titanium here. I did buy, I know I bought the E plate for the carve, Warren. I may have bought the F as well, only because I was using it with my Nasset, which was very smoothed out, and it let me be able to go higher. So I think that's the answer to that. So yeah, I did go higher than the D, just because I had the smoothed out Nasset. How do I clean my carved brass? Oh yeah, Jay, totally agree. I saw one online and the patina was crazy. Well, I did actually hand polish my top cap here a little bit with some Brasso, and I did that a little bit with here. But the handle here is normal patina, and all I do is just wipe it down at the end of the shave. That's all. And so that way you don't get any water spots, and so you get a more even patina when you do that. I got a feeling that anybody who has craziness on their patina is just leaving water on there, perhaps. The brass, man, this is a brute. He's heavy and blocky looking, but he shaves really well. And this is the lower, the 38 gap, and I really enjoy his shaves. Pretty smooth, nice, good grip on the blade, but not super mild, and so he's a nice balance to me. A little bit more aggressive is the 70 something gap of the open comb here. This is kind of a mixed race razor here with a titanium matte handle, maybe a stainless cap, and then as you can see, you can mix and match the different materials, and then the bronze open comb. I'm testing that out. I got a good deal on it. I'm testing it out to see if I want to keep the bronze open comb. Yeah, there really is something about brass razors. Harvey, I'm not a fan of aluminum. It's so light that in many cases I feel like I'm pulling it through my hairs, and I don't care for that quite as much. But in terms, if you want something that's going to last forever, aluminum is a really nice metal. I already told you about the open comb. Um, and this is the barber pole handle of the Timeless, or the knurled one. This is the knurled one. And it's very, very grippy. It's a very grippy type of knurling. You could file away some wood with that one. This is, I believe, a Weber handle, Weber Bulldog handle, and this is the Timeless 95. And like I said, it's a very enjoyable razor. Man, I tell you, this Weber Bulldog handle looks so good in so many different razors. And then here's that barber pole handle from Timeless. And this is in a my normal 68. This is my stainless 68 head that I'm very fond of. Will I sell my stainless now that I've got a Timeless titanium 68? Maybe. Maybe. Very good. All right. Any questions about this row of premium razors? The Blackland, or the Charcoal Goods, or Sterling, Carved, Timeless, anything like that? Yeah, the Fatip, man, is a great little brass piece. I definitely enjoy the brass razors. All right. We'll go to the premiums. The last bit of the premiums are the Wolfman razors. And the quality here, as you know, is just simply amazing. I did buy a hollow barber pole type handle. What is this? The H2, I think. My favorite metal for the Blackbird. I don't like the Blackbird because it's too aggressive for me. It's a wonderful razor, but I didn't really get a chance to try anything other than the stainless. It's just too aggressive. Yes, thank you, James. This is the H2, and he started offering hollow handles, and I didn't think I would. I didn't know if I'd like them or not, but I really love them. It puts them at a really nice weight to make them maneuverable. This is a wonderful classic design. You can kind of see how it's got these classic lines and resemblance to some just wonderful pieces from our shaving past, and just excellent. This is the the WR1, and they are pretty easy to distinguish from the WR2. because the WR2 is a little on the thicker side. WR1 kind of comes more to a point. And WR2, you see the top cap has these little fangs that come down as well. Now, I think that the WR1 it almost looks too thin. It's such an amazing razor that it almost looks too thin. And so I just think the WR2 is just gorgeous. It's got just the right amount of heft and look to it. It looks elegant, but solid. Just terrific. Now, I find generally that the one, and this one is probably, I have a 46. Here's my other one. I think this one is a 54 gap, and this one is a 46 gap. And I definitely favor the lower gaps because I like for that ultra smooth shave. A lot of people love their Wolfman and like with the WR2s, they like them in the ones and the 1.1 somethings. And man, that's a little too much for me. The WR1s I find quite smooth. As a matter of fact, the 46, I'm struggling to find a blade that quite does it justice. It's almost too mild, perhaps. We'll play around. I love this handle. This is the H3 handle, and I've got it. 3 different kinds of H3 handles here. This one is in the matte or brushed finish or whatever, and then this one is the polished. I think they're just gorgeous. And they're practical as well because those bands do come at a good point to keep great control on the razor. So those are the 2 WR1s. And here's the WR2. So I do like the hollow handles here that he offers. And anytime I might order one, I would definitely I myself will definitely be getting the hollow ones. So look at that amazing finish here. And with the WR2s, he's hearkening back to that BBS1 that was a thing, a very popular thing, very renowned razor a while back. And the design is somewhat similar, and I think I've seen many people remark that it's better than the old one. But just the quality is just terrific here. The finish. The corners are there, but they're not sharp or anything. They've been buffed down just the right amount to look precise. It's got a great feel to it when you screw it in. And I really enjoy using it. Both of my WR2s are the same gap because it's the lowest gap I could find. And I haven't decided if I'm going to keep one and sell the other. I'll probably keep both of them. But I think it's the 84 gap or something like that. And I was very happy to be able to get such a low gap. It's not in the standard range. Oh, Warren, you're very astute. I did buy a Tatara, and I do have one left. I bought a few of them, actually. But they, much like the Rex Ambassador, they had a little bit too much chatter and a tenuous feel when I was using them. Even the smoother Masamune one did. And so I decided to pass those on to somebody else. I think I have the Masamune still for sale. I need to dig it up. Yeah, it was one that didn't stay very long. Wonderful craftsmanship, though, but it just didn't quite match my style of shaving. I wanted something a little smoother for such a premium, costly razor. Paul, no, I don't have my collection insured. Is there such a thing as razor insurance? All right. So we covered the Wolfman, and James, thank you so much for what you do for our hobby, putting those out, and thank you for a couple of years ago opening up that wait list. And this one right here is the one I ordered from his wait list. And I figured, hey, if I'm going to wait a year or something like that, then I'm not going to do anything else. And then at least at the end of the year, I'll have myself a razor according to my specs. And so it was wonderful to get that done. Oh yeah, we're still sticking with Wolfman because we have the Gorilla. And I think James might have gotten some flack for the Gorilla. Because who knows? My guess is that maybe it got out and people picked them up because they were Wolfman razors, but then they expected more aggression and they were more mild. And so then people beefed. And I can understand how James might get frustrated that people were beefing when it wasn't designed to be an aggressive razor. And wonderfully smooth, look here. Some people call it the UAG, the ugly ass gorilla. I don't think it's ugly at all. I think it's got its own look to it, its own feel. This head also looks really great on other handles as well, like the Bulldog, for instance. But it's a neat, smooth head. It's kind of a brushed finish. It's got that same design where you put the blade on top on the posts there. And then here's the cool thing, that this handle was was talked about quite a bit. Everybody said, "Man, that's going to be slippery." It's not, because it's a brushed finish. And my guess is that it holds on to your hand so well because microscopically that brushed finish has little tiny metal particles there that are microscopically grabbing onto the surface of your skin. And so even when wet, this is not a slippery handle. So if you have a brushed finished handle of other materials, stainless for instance, then it's going to hold on to you. It's really neat. It's not a slippery handle. Okay, so James says, yes, mild. Just a 2017 razor. Roger that. So this is a 2017 Gorilla, and later on I did pick up the open comb since I knew I was such a fan of the Gorilla, and I got the open comb as well. And I'm playing with it in recent year to find a blade that because it is a little bit more aggressive than the solid bar, and I'm finding a blade that I like for it. And I'm so glad he made this razor. It's unique, and for mild razor fans like me, it's just a treasure. All right, so that's right. Yeah, James specified that the reason that this is not. I mean, look how thick this is, right? This would be a ton of weight, but it's not. It's a really good choice from him to not make it solid, because it would just be too heavy and hard to maneuver. This bottom is a cap down here, and up here the ferrule or whatever it's called that attaches to the head, that pressure fitting in there. And then this main part is a tube, a cylinder, a hollow cylinder. And so it's all pressure fitted in there to make it be so big, but so light at the same time. Very cool. Ah, okay, 316L stainless tubing there. Pretty cool. Now, one of the big surprises for me in wet shaving was when I tried my first Fatip razor. This is an example of the solid bar, the closed comb razor. And this is the special edition that came from Connaught Shaving. The finish sometimes on the Fatip razors starts to flake off. I haven't really had that happen very much on mine, and I have several. Sometimes the alignment is off with with maybe the center thing here or the end pieces. And so because of those quality control issues, I don't think it's become the great razor, popular razor that it really could be. But I tell you what, when I shaved with this, it was so buttery smooth. The feel of it was so smooth, but then my face after the shave, I never had something that had both elements at the same time. That had that smoothness and feel where, is there a blade in there? But at the same time, I felt my face afterwards and the hair was gone. And so that's why I think these little, $28 guides are some of the best buys in wet shaving. Underneath the plating is brass, and so it's a lifetime type materials here. They do make it an open comb. If it has this type handle, then it's called a piccolo. Piccolo open comb, piccolo solid bar, that kind of thing. This is a solid handle. It's got nice weight to it. At first I didn't like this handle because it was a little on the dainty side. It looked kind of thin. But in actual practice, it feels really good in the hand. It balances well, and it's very nimble and maneuverable. The other type of handle is this one, the Grande, and similar to the Tech. And the Aristocrats, the thicker version, is hollow in the middle. And so it's actually a lighter handle and has a whole different balance. I like the appearance and the thickness and the girth of this handle, but I like the balance of the Piccolo. Again, same head. With any of the Fatipes, if you see it being an open comb or a solid bar, it's the same, whether it's the same comb, the same head, regardless of whatever handle you are purchasing. And then Fatip also made some slants. Here is the open comb slant with the Piccolo handle. And it does slant with a torsion twisting kind of process. And then here's the same type of slant with the closed comb or the solid bar. And then this one has the kind of the slanted or the twisted grande handle. And they did twist the Piccolo handle, as you can see. It's not the same exact Piccolo handle. These are not great slants to me and to a few other people, but they're inexpensive. And so if you want to try them out, they just didn't seem to be, they felt very comfy, but they just didn't seem to be super effective. I've been playing around trying to find a good blade with them, and in general, I just didn't have as much luck. Well, those are almost all the premium ingredient, the premium material razors that we have. We also have this guy right here. This is a carbon shaving. I got onto Carbon a little bit. I got onto their case, not directly to them, but just online, because they first came out with that poodle handle. It was just knurled, a knurled section here, and then a thin section, and then a knurled section. It was very blocky. And then they wanted to charge like $250 for it. And that just, that's what I said online. I said, man, if you're going to charge that much, then look like you put effort in the handle. But they have since developed other handle types, and they seem to be really nice folks. This is actually a titanium one, and this was my prize this year in the lather games. And I need to use it more. I'll be able to do that, to use it here recently. I obtained it basically right before Austere August, when I was limiting myself to the carve razor. And so now I get to play around with this. I talked to the owner, and he advised me when getting my prize to go with the Plus base plate. And this one does have my razors. Look how, this is titanium, and so crazy thin this base plate can be. It's just nuts. It feels like I'm like flipping a dime over is what it feels like in my hand. That's what titanium feels like. So light and still firm. I have the minus base plate once with this, and it felt a little bit on the scrapey side. There are parts of this. You can see this bevel here. Let me see if I can do there we go, highlighting there. There's that bevel that the blade is going to sit on and be held down, but it still felt a little on the scrapey side. And so the bevel must just not be doing quite as good of a job as it could. But this is super light, and it's a wonderfully generous prize donated by to the Lather Games by Carbon Shaving. And I look forward to more uses, and I look forward to trying out that minus base plate. And we've already talked about the kind of the holy grail for some people, the hybrid tech. And those are all the premium razors. Now, another neat one. Here's a little surprise. See this little Staley live blade razor? You crank it like that, and then it vibrates. And it's kind of a gimmick. But in actuality, the head itself is a really good head. It shaves really well. Pretty smooth and very close. And this head does fit, is compatible with any of these, a lot of these handles. It's the standard threading. And with the vibration on or not, it's it's an enjoyable shave. The vibration is a neat thing to use, but you know what? I quit using the vibration because what? Here I am in the middle of the shave with soapy hands, and it's a lot of effort to twist this, and it would last a whole pass. A lot of them you buy off eBay, the mechanism is broken. This one is in great shape. The Staley Live Blade. That is a vintage piece. Now, one of these matte finish razors, you're right, John, I don't have very many slants because I get such nice shaves from the regular razors. I just never felt the need. There was a Merkur slant that I tried that I did not enjoy very much. Um, 37C or something like that. Uh, but I just never really, um, I never really saw the need. I thought I never really had. A lot of times people try slants because they have a void when they're using the solid bar. But with the solid bar, I've never had a void, and so I haven't really jumped on the slants. But since I'm such a fan of Fatih, that's why I, purchased their slants. But you're right, I don't have very many. One of these guys is a clone, and one of these guys is the real Merkur Futur razor. You can take the top cap off, and if it says Solingen in there, then it's the real thing. This is a clone. Q-Shave makes a clone, as well as Ming Shi. Don't remember which one that is. And this one is the real Solingen on one end and Germany on the other. This is kind of an expensive razor. I basically got it for free out of a deal. I had a food tour at one point, and I sold it. It's kind of expensive, and I believe a lot of the ingredients in here are pot metal. And I just don't think I should pay over $60 for a pot metal razor. But you know what? I got, and here's the chromed version. And hey, this chrome is a similar way. This is actually not very slippery when wet. If you have soap on your hands, then it is slippery. But if your hands are simply wet, this will be just fine. It's not going to slip out of your grip. I tried to not like the Futur because, as you can see, I so love the classic look of the razors. So many of the ones that I gravitate toward are not futuristic at all, just have that classic appearance. And so the Futur definitely violates that, right? And I don't really like the fact that when you twist it, you're twisting the whole handle. I feel like when I'm shaking it, I'm gonna unchange the set. I'm gonna change the setting. It's never happened that way, but that's just the way the impression I have. But the more I shaved with the Futur, the more I actually liked it. The clone I felt was kind of on the scrapey side, and it definitely gave me a different shave than the real thing. The real thing gave me a smoother shave when I was down at the 2 setting, that sort of thing. And so even though I didn't want to like it, the more I shaved with it, the more I did like it. It's a nice, good shaving razor. It balances nicely in the hand. It may not be the materials may not be as nice as some, but and it may be a little overpriced. But if you get it used, then you're not taking on that markup, are you? And let's see. So here we get to a few Zamac options. Yaki put out this or maybe this might be. No, I can't remember who this is. This is kind of a gimmick, but it does actually shave well. This double open comb thing, it's really mainly a gimmick. I don't think it's giving you any extra lubrication, but what it is doing is it's having nice support on the blade edge, very close to the edge, and that is what's making it a good razor, in my opinion. Very cheap, and so if you have low budget, then it might be a great choice for you. Another low, if you are interested in the Rockwell stainless, that's $100. But this guy right here is like 30 or so. This is the gunmetal version of the 6C, and the Rockwell is a decent shaver. I bought this one new. I don't use it very much because the Carve to me is the better version of the Rockwell in most cases. Now this is a wonderful little guy. If you're interested in buying new stuff, but you want something cheap but reliable, this is a nice piece. This is a Maggard stainless steel handle, and of course it's been anodized blue. Man, this thing was on sale for almost nothing, like $4 once. I couldn't help but pick it up. Solid stainless steel. And this is their mild head. This is the same Bai Li head that's out there in other razors, but you see again the 4 posts. It holds that blade very securely. And then its mildness, man, this thing is smooth and comfy. And then whenever the plating wears loose on the threading in there and the head breaks or whatever, buy a new head for $6 and keep on going. And so it's a very smooth, comfy shaver. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get a great shave, and this is a nice example. Yeah, Zesty. If you like the Futur concept, but you don't want scrapey, then you may want to try the legit, the real deal, because it is smoother to me at least. Hey, Ali. Why do I have three Futurs? Basically, I got all these in a lot package that I bought, and I just haven't figured out which one I'm gonna keep. I'm probably gonna sell the clone. So let's pretend that this one's the clone, and then am I gonna keep one of these? I don't know yet. I just haven't decided. I may sell both. I may sell just one. I'm not sure. Very good. So that's all these razors on the table that we've covered. Anybody got any questions? Yes. The two of those that I showed you are real Merkur Futurs, and they both have the same head geometry, yes. But the geometry must be different for the clone because it does shave differently. I am not as much into SEs as I am DEs. Okay, Zesty does like the look of the Futur. All right, well, here's the NX. And we don't really have too many other double edge here, but just a couple of things I wanted to show you. I kind of come down on Merkurs because the modern ones are kind of overpriced Zamac razors, and that's just not a. No, I'm not into that. Well, they have a big name because their vintage ones are better materials. This is the Slant, and I've shaved with this once, and I actually got a pretty good shave with it. And you can see it's slightly different. It's almost got a silvery approach, silvery look to it. This is definitely a vintage Merkur. Continuing in the vintage line, we have these two. These are khaki sets. Sometimes hard to come by. These are Gillette khaki sets some of these were given to the military when they were in various wartime military situations. And they contain a Gillette old type, basically, in there. A space here for the tuck of blades. And then you've got your head and then your handle. And you can see both of these are khaki sets, but we got two different designs, a 1-button and a 2-button design. Now, there is a little cavity back here behind that, and that's to hold a mirror. But it's so rare to buy a khaki set to have the mirror. Well, big surprise to me, and one of you guys actually advised me, and I looked, and this set here actually has the mirror back there with it. And how cool is that? The 2-button design. Can I dig the mirror out to show you guys? It's really a tight fit back in there. I don't want to damage anything. It's coming out very slowly, but I'm afraid it would be too slow for live video. This one came with a razor that was kind of in pieces. We talked about the splits earlier in some of these tubes, and this one definitely has that going the whole way, such that these guys no longer friction fit. And so I got a good deal on one of these. And my idea was to take the good razor in one and put it in the other one. And we'll see if I do that. And we have blade tucks in paper boxes, but back then they had these metal containers here for the tucks, for the put the blades in. So that's a khaki set. Hey, Ben. House of Mammoth is here. Welcome, sir. Wet Shaving Church with Sugar Daddy. That's hilarious. One of my Wolfman razors I bought from Ben, and it was such a blessing because he had that low gap and he put it online, and I was able to jump on it. It was wonderful. Parker adjustable injector, Zesty says he has online there. How about that? Well, we've got some injectors right here, and so people can see what an injector looks like. I've got two different kinds to show you. I do have more. These shave really well to a lot of people. There's even an adjustable Schick injector. A lot of times you have to have a key, and they do sell the injector cartridges and stuff. I've heard that the Chinese Schicks are among the best razors to get for these types. There's a Pella brand that's available as well, and I've heard and have experienced that they're not very good. There's Persona injector blades, and I've heard those are almost as good as the Schicks, the Chinese Schicks. And I've heard some people actually like them better because they're a little smoother. So if you've got one of these type injectors, definitely check out the Chinese-made Schicks or the Persona injector blades. And this is one of the few razors. No, I think it's the adjustable. One of the few that I actually bought at an antique store. I haven't had very much success with antique stores except for that razor. Well, it looks like I have my first spammer on the chat. Chester the cat. All right. So those are injectors. Another single edge is a same blade as the injector, but it's longer, and that's called the Artist Club size. And you do have straight razor shaped items that use an Artist Club blade, and these are Razor Rock Hawks. And this is I think maybe the version 2, which has the more angled head. People affectionately call this the Black Hawk. This is an aluminum material. And then the angled ones kind of look like the Mongoose version. The angled ones here, and these are aluminum too, I think are maybe the version 1. And they shave really well to me so far. They're a little bit on the light side, like I mentioned, but they shave pretty good. And I can definitely see why people use those for shaving. They have a nice feel. It is different. The single edges, the other single edges that we have here, you've got some really vintage looking ones, like these of the 1912 kind of era. And these things look like weird creatures, right? I think one of the, HD Shaves gave me this one. Very generous of him. And they have this neat ability to kind of sing while you shave. Because of that long metal, it's able to vibrate. And so that's going to produce a little bit of a noise. When you have thinness over distance, that's where you get sound in many cases. I never compared, Warren, the vintage injectors to a contemporary injector such as the Supply. I've never actually used the Supply. I haven't seen crazy good reviews on it, so I've never felt the need to try it. I've heard that the vintage injectors are, for the most part, better than the Supply one. Now, John likes the Leaf Twig, and I've seen that one online. I haven't played around with any of the Leaf razors though. So these guys take the single edge blades, and the single edge for me don't last as long as the DE blades. I can get a single edge blade, to 20 uses without pretty much any problem. But I don't think I'm going to go to 30 when I do. But yet I'm on like 450 almost with a DE blade. So for the people who cut out with the DE blades at about 3 or 5 shaves, then yeah, a single edge might go further for that kind of person. And these guys, they vary. Sometimes they're smooth, and sometimes they're medium, and sometimes they're slightly aggressive. This guy is that Micromatic open comb that has those vicious teeth and the exposure, and you got to be careful, and you got to have good technique, and you got to have a soft touch with this guy, is my understanding about making him behave. Hey, Refined Edge. Yeah, we're still on. I don't even know how long we're going. Crap, we're at 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's just nuts. Well, I'm having a good time. I can't help but think that we're helping some people out there. to look at some of these razors in one central place, you know? And that's my hope, is that it helps people. This one is a more modern, as you can see, gem razor. It's got a very similar base plate to the open comb, but it's a solid bar. This is called the Gem Contour, and he's a little bit on the mild side, so much mild that he didn't really give me a very close shave. And HD Shaves is a friend who let me know that that's kind of a standard knowledge about this particular model. He's not a very good example of the single edge genre. That's right, yeah, John. The twig uses the DE blades that have been cut in half. Yeah. Now, if you're looking for a single-edged SE type razor, this is called the bullet tip, obviously from the shape of this tip here. And it is a solid bar, but it's got a geometry here that agrees and is a little kinder to your face than, you know, say these guys. Doesn't take quite as much skill and practice to make this guy very friendly and enjoyable for you. So a bullet tip is a good option if you want to maybe get into, and I've heard that the Featherlight as well, I think I'm calling this one correctly, the Featherlight. I think they may even have exactly the same heads. These two perhaps, HD Shaves would know, I believe. And this has got a really neat handle to it, and he's very head heavy because there's no metal here in the plastic. It's plastic down there. But same concept. These two may actually be, no, they are different heads because one's a flip top. But I think the Featherlight is maybe the same as the clog proof or closed comb or, you know, something like that. So those are some single edge examples. Like I said, I don't have a big single edge collection, but those are just some examples of what's possible. Some of the other heads that are out there, this one is one that you will just see everywhere. And once you learn to recognize it, it'll help you. You know why? Because people will take these Chinese heads. We recently, I think there was a French company called Halmont or something like that. And the guy got online telling us about Halmont, which is great because they were turning these handles, these stainless steel handles, but they were basically putting these Chinese heads on them. It looked exactly like this. You see the round bow on the underside. You see the two parts that come up to touch the top cap. You see on the underneath side, there's a slight valley as it heads into the bolt there. And you can just easily recognize this when you see it online. Because I think there are a lot of people out there who decide, I'm going to make these fancy handles, and then they'll slap one of these heads on it. And so you're basically charging you for the handle. But for me as a shaver, I value the shave experience, not really the handle. The handle plays into it, but only slightly. Only in terms of weight distribution and just the ability to hold the razor. The head is just the crucial part. And so they're taking the crucial part and just using, you know, John Q. Public Chinese $3 item here. And there's nothing wrong with that until you try to convince me that this is a premium head. And that's when I start to get ticked off. And so basically the Halmont people were wanting you to pay about $150 for basically a handle. It's a $2 head on a $150 handle. And if you want to do that, that is fine. Because maybe you think their handles are gorgeous. Matter of fact, they did look pretty nice. Do they look $150 nice? Well, that's up to you and your eyeballs, right? But I wanted people, I hate it when people get taken and who end up with a head like this and they think that they've gotten some kind of premium shaving implement. But Maggard sells these as well as Bai Li, and Maggard sells them as the V3 head. And Bai Li sells them as well, like on Yaki and AliExpress. The aggressive version, Maggard sells these, and you'll see these around for other people as well. It's got a similar top cap, maybe identical, but the base plate is more flat across. It doesn't have that round curve, and it's got more of a gap. And so this is the V3A from Maggard. And you'll see this. I've seen some Yintal razors on AliExpress that have this same head. This is a zinc alloy head as well as AMAC. It's a little bit more aggressive than the V3. rightfully so. I could use it every day, I think. It's a good little head. As long as you're just paying a few dollars for it, then it's worth it. The R41 head is similar. It's not a stainless steel head. It's a Zamac head type experience. Here's that level 1 base plate from the Saber single edge razor. Excuse me. This is that fine accoutrements. Fatip has a black color that they distribute their razors. This is that solid bar. And you see how close. Let's look at this. This is where the money is made right here. This is why the head is so important. I'm going to get a ruler here and measure from the end of the support here it's about 18 millimeters kind of from gap to gap, whereas the support right here is about 12. And so you've got that much more support here on the underside of the blade to keep that steady. And that's why the Fatip is just such a magical little shaver that's so smooth. And why this guy will give you a little bit more chatter, a little bit more blade feel. I believe that the smoother feeling shave also is kinder to my skin too. Because if it's going to vibrate and move across my skin, then sometimes it's going to cut a little deeper than others. And I think maybe that's not quite as good for my skin. Now, some people like that chatter, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you like that sound, that audio feedback, it might mean that you're shaving to you. It might be part of what you associate with a good shave. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, well, I put that user in timeout, but he's back, and so I'm going to kill him. Okay. Hey, Kevy Shaves, welcome. I really enjoy your channel, as well as like Michael Friedberg, who joined us, HC Shaves as well. Welcome, Kevy. I get a lot out of your channel, man. I appreciate your humor and the stuff that you review. I like a lot of the European stuff that you bring to the table. Long or short handle? That is a great question, and nobody has mentioned that. I will answer that with an example, like these two razors. These are both Gillette Techs. And this tech head has a Maggard handle that's nice and long. And this is the normal ball end handle length. When I first started, I made the mistake of buying a bunch of Mercurs and Parker razors and Jaggers and that sort of thing, all because I was only on Amazon. I wasn't on the other parts of the internet. And so I didn't know any better. I thought that Parker and Amazon and stuff were the way to go. And so in the comments, I learned about all these things. And people were making remarks about get the long handle because you get better leverage. I've got big hands, so I need a long handle. Well, I'm going to bring in this little guy right here. He's a teeny tiny little handle. And I love him because of the balance. I've got big hands. Most gloves that you find in a hardware store, I can't fit my hand. They don't fit my hand right. My hands are too big. But this little guy right here, because I don't value leverage, and that's the key. This guy, he can give you leverage. I can spread my fingers all over the length here. But what does that do? That keeps the head kind of fixed. He can't move as well. When he's moving across the contours of my skin, he's going to be more likely to dig into certain areas. If there's a bump, he's going to dig into that bump instead of gliding over it. And so by altering my grip to something more central, this is usually the kind of grip that I have, even if I have a long handle. And so therefore, see, there's a lot more flex. And see, these are things that Kevy knows. And so I know I'm preaching to the choir here, as we say in America. But for those of you who don't know, this is why I like it. Um, I keep a central hold like this, and that way, that light touch that's really good for great technique, at least in my opinion, it lets the razor see how it just lets the razor move over the surface. It gives when it needs to give, and it lets me put a light pressure. And so, therefore, I do like a long handle, and this is a long answer to such a nice question. I do like a long handle only for the purpose of balance. If it lets me put that central grip in a better place, then great. But no, I'm not using the long handle for grip and for leverage. And that's an important distinction. Now, if you do have a long handle, sometimes it's nice. There are grips when I'm reaching across on the opposite side of my chin, then I'll hold the end of it. But again, I'll hold it almost like cradle it loosely in my hand like it was radioactive. You know, even when sometimes I'll hold a razor like this, but again, it's cradled loosely. And so that's the answer. I like handles that are not super thin, but and I like more like in general. I like handles that are a little bit longer than this, but my main focus is the balance of the razor because I'm usually not going to use anything back here toward this end. That's a very good question. Warren jumped in saying Rudd's like short handles, case closed. That's great. You know, you can like whatever size handle that you want. That is just fine. Now I'm going to jostle the camera here for just a second while I plug in the charger. I'm running out of batteries. I liked the carve handle that was 3.5 inches long because it set my grip point at a nice central location, and that enabled me to have nice flexibility and control. But then later on, when the 3.25 inch came out, I bought that one, and that's my favorite length. But the main point for me is just that don't use it for leverage, and so that can give you nice technique. Is my personal perspective. Here's that Knight's helmet handle. One of you guys also said that, man, this was aggressive for you. Inexpensive head if you ever want to try it out. But man, is it got a lot of gap to it, and it is aggressive. I got it at AliExpress for just a few dollars. Very good. So those are my heads. And then I bought another one of those from the Dollar Tree. And this is where I keep all my carve plates. I enjoy the carve so much. Here's a little appearance by Tatara. I enjoy carve so much that I bought I would buy one every month or something like that. Every couple of months I'd buy a different one. And you can see different levels of patina perhaps. And then, hey, here's a little tidbit. Not only can you use Dollar Tree sub-containers here, hardware storage cases, but you can get online and buy a cigar or pen case. And it's great for razor handles. This one has a little divider to keep them separate so they don't scratch each other. And it's got a zip around thing. And so we've got a titanium one purchased from, I think, T-BAM, WCS, West Coast Shaving often has some really good deals for just a few dollars. And this is a brass handle from them. We've got the radio knob handle from Italian Barber. And then this is the OSS handle from Icon, I think. Italian Barber again, and maybe a long one from Maggard. Here's that carve. This is that original one I started out with. Razor rock handle, Weber. There's one point in a year or two ago where Weber was selling blemished handles on eBay, and I was able to pick one up. Windrose on Etsy has some handles as well, and here's a black one from West Coast Shaving and another radio knob. And the radio knob is really funny. I thought I would like that handle, but it's one that I got in and decided I didn't, so I don't use it very much. Oh yeah, yeah, a little stacking device to keep the carved plates. Yeah, I could see that being pretty cool. Well, there we go, guys. Oh, and then RUS Drunk Bear on eBay before COVID. I bought this titanium handle from him, and he was great to deal with. Even did some custom modifications to a design for me, and so that's out there available. He's got some designs right now, but they're super expensive. So I think COVID just has really affected him. And then Maggard has these honking, huge, heavy. No wait, these are West Coast shaving. Maggard does have a version like this, but man, I never use these because these are so heavy. But they were just so cheap, I couldn't hold back. Someday I want to try these on something and see if I like it. But man, these are honking huge. Well, there we go, my friends. Man, it's been fun hanging out with you. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for your contributions, people helping out with information, that sort of thing. Little addendums as we've been going through it. It's been a privilege to talk with you guys. You know, John, yeah, I've seen people buy those wooden test tube racks and use as razor holders. They work really well. All right, guys. That is, I kind of figured I would do it this way. Just go ahead and launch into talking about all this stuff, right? And I hope it's been helpful for you guys, as fun as it has been for me. Keith, I appreciate that. Thank you, man. Jay, thank you, all you guys for joining. I appreciate it. I think what I'll do is I was going to separate and divide things into smaller videos, but I guess mainly in the description of the video here, I can put a menu with times, and then people can jump to certain pieces, right? Well, maybe that'll help. But it's been great. When you do your 3-5 shave and you realize you still have stubble, would you increase your? Oh yeah, that was great. Thank you, Alex, for bringing back your question. Kevy was a little bit late. That's all right, man. Yeah, man. Watch it back. We cover. Hey, yeah. Let's just do a quick recap of what we covered for you guys who came in late, so you can know if you want to rewatch what you want to rewatch back. We started talking about the vintage Gillettes, like old types, and the news and things like that. We showed you things like raised flat bottom news, normal flat bottom news. Then we went to the techs. We showed like the Psychotech, which is kind of neat, flat bottom techs, the hybrid tech. We showed the vintage Aristocrats, the UK versions, as well as the earliest American versions. We showed the adjustable vintages, the super speeds, some rockets, things like that. Then we showed premium razors like Blackland and Timeless and Charcoal Goods, Carve, Wolfman, Carbon Shaving, and we looked at the Fatipes and we had looked at a vintage ABC pocket edition, some khaki sets, some single edges at the end, some Mercure Futurs, that sort of thing. So there you go. It was a privilege to take care of you, to hang out with you guys for a little while. So yeah, Alex, yeah, he's rephrasing, he's pasting back in his question. I'm glad you stayed, and we can address that. When you say 3-5 shave, do you mean like 3-pass shave? Yeah, Kevin. Yes, Kevin, you missed the cartridge section. Great. Oh man. If I realize I still have stubble at the end, would I increase my razor in aggressiveness? Oh, okay, the 3 to 5, yeah, in aggression, or use a sharper blade. I basically never turn to a sharper blade because it is, unless I have a really mild razor, that's when like a feather is going to really shine. But most of the blades just are kind of the same for me, and either they work well or they don't. And so usually, if I get to the end of a shave and I still have stubble, that I usually just do another pass. But usually it doesn't happen that way. As you keep going, and you can feel your stubble as you go, and you're paying attention to your face as you're shaving. And so after that first pass, you'll notice, wow, yeah, when I'm rinsing, I'm feeling that stubble and diagnosing at the same time, and I feel that stubble start to drop away. And so when I get to that third pass, I shouldn't have very much stubble left at all. And so what you can do is you can touch up in certain areas. Now, a bigger answer is if after three passes, if you've got good technique in terms of the lightness of your touch and that sort of thing, and you still have some areas left, then what may be happening is you're not approaching with the right strategy. All right, here I've got a curve in my hair grain that does this. And it took me months to figure out the right strategies, the right approach angles to hit it and get it right in three passes. And so that might be what I say is a real culprit there. Is I would instead of switching to maybe a more aggressive razor, I might switch to a more analyzing, a more critical policy, a look at my approach, my angles that I was using, that sort of thing. Unless there are a few razors here that are too mild that for me that would be problematic, that I would definitely need to upgrade to something more aggressive. And those are for me the Feather ASD2. If I wasn't using a feather blade in it, then often it doesn't give me a very close shave. The Razor Rock Game Changer 68, very mild plate for me, and often leaves me with stubble. And so I did need to migrate north in terms of aggression there for those particular razors. But that's really about it. All the rest of these are capable. Even the Gillette Tech, people say it's so mild, but it's been giving for decades. Millions of these things have been produced, and it's been shaving guys with wiry, coarse hair. All these guys, over the course of time, have gotten great shaves from the Tech, and so I think that's a problem with the user taking the time and getting to know the razor and learning the right angles to use. Warren, do we get an hour break before you move into brushes? I will do a brushes one sometime. I don't know when it's gonna. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to grab them all together and then show them to you. But yeah, we'll do brushes sometime. With me, brushes is an interesting thing. I see so many guys who have the same knot on several different brushes because they just like different handles. But I'm the opposite. I don't have very many repeat knots, and so all the knots that you see with the I don't know 60 brushes that I have, they're all different knots, and that's the way I personally like it. Nice, Warren. That was funny. Oh, Ben, that was great. All right. So there we go. It's been a pleasure bringing you these razors, and I really hope there's some new folks out here that catch this video later on and are able to learn about some of the different razors out there. Hope to help people with this. Any more questions before we break up? You guys can put your questions in while I try to reassemble my Gillette Tech section, because I was getting lost because I had U.S. techs, Canadian techs, and English techs. The thin handle tech, the tech handle goes with the English flat bottom tech. The rest of them are fairly normal looking handles. I do have a contract tech, and it has a very thin base plate, kind of like the Psycho Tech, and so it doesn't have quite as solid of a shave as the normal techs. But man, the British Gillettes. I guess if I had one piece of advice in terms of if I only could tell somebody one thing about getting these older razors, it might be something like buy a Tech or something, but it really might be just stick with the UK versions of stuff in terms of these vintage Gillettes. Because from the Tech to the Aristocrat to the Super Speeds, it's like the English version. The UK version is just a better quality, a better feel to you, and a better efficiency all the way around. And so if I had to only say one thing, That might be it. All right. All the texts have been assembled. The fatigues were turned into a mess as well. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Um, Tune in on any one of the other daily shaves if you have questions. Um, and I think after this, when we close down this one, if you still post a question to it, it should alert me, and then I can jump in there and answer it as well. If you do, take care. It's been a pleasure bringing you this stuff, um, and I think that'll be good. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Hope this helps. You know what? I bought a special phone that has a big battery, and even then, and it had a full battery when we started, but it's almost 3 hours, guys. This is crazy. 2 hours and 45 minutes. Um, and But yeah, I was actually prepared just in case. I thought this is a phone that's not going to run out of battery power, but I did extend a cable over here just in case, and sure enough, I heard a beep, and I had to plug in my cable to make sure we were good. Hilarious. James, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad you enjoyed it. All right, guys. Blessings to you all. I recently lost a good friend to COVID. Cherish your friends and reach out to some of them and just say hey, even if you can't quite know what to say. Um, Reach out and just say hey and do something like that. Cherish your loved ones. All right. Hope this is going to be a good help to people out there. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. I'm going to close this thing on down now. Take care. The phone is turned the wrong way, so I can't see the button. There it is.